Okay, so geometric figures. So this is a diagram similar to what we've been looking at. And so let's break some things down. Got my nice purple here going. I need the mouse so I can, there we go. All right, so name a line, you see that is not contained in plane N. All right, so we want to find plane N. Here's the N right here. So it's this plane here that you're going to worry about. I don't think that works this way. Let me try this. Yep. So one of the things I have students do in person is I use highlighters. So this is the plane we're talking about here. I highlighted it in yellow. All right, so that's our plane N. And we want to find a line that's not contained in there. Well, when I look at my diagram, I can see that this line right here that's going up and down, I can also see from dashed lines. Dashed lines in geometric figures mean that it's behind whatever else is there. So in this case, this line is behind that this plane. So it means it comes through right there at point B, because all of this dashed line is behind it, it's underneath it. So if you were looking at it and these were solid figures, you actually wouldn't be able to see the dashed line. Like if we took a pencil and poked it up through a piece of paper, and then you're looking down at it, there'd be part of that pencil you couldn't see, if that helps that to make sense. So you can see that this line actually just goes on through. So you would have line AE. So you can write it out like this. Line AE. You could also, of course, write line EA. You have a B on that line, so you could validly say line BA or AB or BE. You can use any of those 3 points in any order. With a line, you can name things. The order of the 2 points you pick does not matter. And which 2 points you pick usually doesn't matter. It's rays that are the ones that are special. If we wanted to talk about ray BA, we have to start with B and A. And BA is different from ray EA because it includes this part here. So they're not the same because they have an end point. They have a distinct starting point. But yeah, you could name it any of those ways. Any of that works. Any questions? Oh, one thing I noticed on the quiz from last time. The very first question asks you about line segments. Remember, when you're making, when you're talking about lines, you use this symbol, right? You put it on top, so AE, that'd be line AE. But if I write this, then it's AE. This is a line segment. Okay, so if the question's asking about line segments, make sure that you don't have arrows on the end. You do not want arrows when you're talking about line segments. It's just a helpful hint from me to you. Hopefully it is helpful. All right, name 2 different ways to name a plane that contains point B. So B is that intersection between line AE and this plane. So we've got some options for naming planes. You can name it with the italicized letter if you want. I personally hate that method of naming. I don't think there's anything on your quiz that has that. So it could be plane N. You could also do any 3 points here that are on the plane. So you could do BCD, BDC, CDB, as long as they're not collinear. But your answer should not contain point A or point E, because those are not on this plane. Hope that makes some sense. Plane BCD, plane DCB, plane, I don't know, BDC. Doesn't really matter the order of the letters for a plane either. All right. Name 3 collinear points. So remember, collinear points are points that are like boom, boom, boom. They're right in a row. They're on the same line. So if we look at this line here, we have B and we have C. So that there's no other points on this line, so we can't use that line to find our 3 collinear points. So we look at this line, we only have C and D. So that's not going to work either. There's only 2 points. So the other line we have is the one that goes through. It's not on that plane. We have E, we have B, we have A. You can see those 3 are all in a row. So those would be the 3 points you could use for, I didn't mean to clear everything, but that's all right. So points A, B, and E. Those are the only 3 that are collinear. They're the only 3 that go in a row. All right, and name 2 lines that intersect and the point where they intersect. So we can pick any 2 lines we want here. All of them intersect something. So let's say stick to the plane. All right, so we have line BC and line CD, and they intersect at point. When we look at those 2 lines, if it helps you, we're going to be starting to use more, so here and here, and you can see they intersect here. We're going to be starting to use more and more like interactive websites where you'll have more options to interact. So you can highlight things hopefully and do that kind of stuff. And point C is where they intersect. You could have picked A and E and C and D, or I'm sorry, CB, because they intersect at point B. But you can't pick CD and AE. Those 2 lines don't actually ever intersect. Another helpful hint, when you're looking at 2 lines, BC and CD, and you notice that point C is where they intersect, when you look at these 2, they both have a C in them. Now that won't always help you, because if you named the line, let's say you named this line AE and you name this CB, there's no C, or there's no B in your name because you picked AE. But it's something to look for. It could help you out. It would have helped you out if you saw, given lines B, C, and CD, where do they intersect? Well, they both have a C, so they intersect at C. So this is a 3D figure. You have, this is a flat surface, that's a flat surface on this side. So to make up a cube type shape, something that's close to a cube, or when you think about it, the most common cube you guys probably know of is a die, like a dice, like 1 dice. So it's kind of like a weird shaped die. To have something like that, you have to have at least 6 faces. We're not going to spend a lot of time on 3D geometry this year, but and this W goes with this point. That's why I put the note up here. And then the T goes up here, the Q, and the P goes with this. They're up a level. So name 3 planes. Remember, to name a plane, we need 3 letters. So we could use the italicized A, but I'm not going to bother with that. So let's say we want to name this big flat one at the bottom. Well, we have 4 points on that plane. We have M, N, R, and X. So given that, we could name that one plane M, N, R. You could have picked MSN. You could use any 3 of the 4 letters. Because for a plane, you use 3 letters. Let's see, we have this flat surface up on the top, so we could name that the plane. We have TQWP, so you can name it TQP. Doesn't really matter. The only tricky thing with naming planes is to make sure that the 3 points are not in a row. And I know these are a lot of rules. I really do understand that. And we're going to move on to something new next week that hopefully will be a little easier. The diagrams are definitely a lot simpler. So hopefully that'll be good. QRN, I could name this one here on the side. And then there were some other planes I didn't name, but hopefully you get the idea. Name 3 collinear points. Okay, so this segment only has 2 points. That one has 2, 2. The only place we really see 3 points in a row is here, where there's an X right in the middle of 2 other points. I don't see anywhere else that there's 3 points that make up a straight line. So our only option here is points S, X, and M. All right, next question asks, are points N, S, R, and W coplanar? Why or why not? So these 3 are all down here on this bottom plane, but the W is not on this plane. It's up here, in this plane up here. So they're not all on the same plane. So you could say something like, no, point W on a different plane. You could get more technical and say points S, R, and N are coplanar. However, W is located above them and is on a separate plane. You could get really detailed with it if you really wanted. But this I would have accepted for full credit. No, point W is on a different plane. What is another way to name plane A? So we already talked about that, M, S, R, and N. You could actually use X too. M, X, N. Just make sure you don't use S, X, M, because those are collinear. So much junk mail. And where do line QR and line SR intersect? So again, that trick that I told you about earlier would work. You have QR and SR. The common letter that you see between those 2 things is R. It has to be R, but we're going to look at the diagram and make sure it has to be correct. But Q and R, and then if I switch colors, and SR, you can see that that's the one and it's R. Because again, that's a trick that can help you with finding intersections for lines and line segments. And hopefully this review helped a little bit, or at least got your brain jogged on things before you take the quiz.